class presented with Professor Madhuka.
61.
Madhuka is no stranger to PIM. She's been involved with us very much in our research endeavors, and we are greatly honored to have you here, Professor Madhuka. Starting, we have the first presentation by B.T. Dinukshi Nimesha Senarath, and her presentation will be on her research on the impact of green supply chain management practices on export performance, the mediating role of technological innovations. And for that, we have a 20-minute presentation to be followed by 10 minutes of question time, where Professor Madhuka will share her valuable insights with you, which will help you greatly to move forwards. There will be one ring after 15 minutes, and at the end of 20 minutes, of course, it will continuously go on. Okay, so may I invite you to start your presentation, please?
Thank you, madam. A very good morning to all of you. I'm Dinukshi Senarath, here to present my research findings on the topic of the impact of green supply chain management practices on export performance and the mediating role of technological innovations. Moving on, this is the outline for today's presentation. So when I'm going to start my study, the first step was to find the research problem. So the research problem was consisted of three gaps, namely the performance gap, empirical gap, and the theoretical gap. First, if I elaborate on the performance gap, as we all know, exports play a major role in the survival of any businesses because it will lead to increase the performance of the organization. But ironically, the export performance in Sri Lanka, in particular, some industries has reduced over a particular period of time as a percentage of GDP. This has been not only for all these industries, but only for a limited number of industries. So as per the graph clearly says, it can be said that the export performance has been declining over a particular period of time. But the question is it because of the COVID-19 pandemic? But it can clearly shows that even before the year 2019, the export performance has been reduced over a particular period of time in the Sri Lankan economy. So with this background, the empirical gap, if I elaborate it on the empirical gap, the impact of green supply chain management practices. This has been identified on various dimensions of performance, namely the financial performance, the operational performance, and economical performance. But limited number of studies have focused on the impact of green supply chain management practices on the export performance in emerging industries. On the other hand, reverse logistics. This has identified as one of the important factor in a supply chain or in a green supply chain. What do you mean by what do you mean by reverse logistics? For example, if you think about the Coca-Cola bottle, after you consume the Coca-Cola bottle, the company will take actions to take the bottle back to the organization. So this is what reverse logistics is. That is, when you are going to consume the product, and if you have something that you can collect again back to the company, which will reduce the environmental impact, that is known as reverse logistics. So this reverse logistics, it's one of the important factor for a green supply chain, but limited studies have identified this green supply chain along with, or else as a dimension with reverse logistics as one of its dimensions for the studies. So this has been identified as the empirical gap, where I have stated that scant number of researchers have investigated the impact of green supply chain management practices, including reverse logistics, on the export performance in emerging countries. And moving to the theoretical gap. The impact of green and the performance has been widely examined through the the theory of natural resource-based view. What do you mean by natural resource-based view? It suggests a firm can gain competitive advantage from the implementation of green strategies such as pollution prevention, product stewardship, and sustainable development. The NRBV, or the Natural Resource-Based View, offers a framework where the organizations can adopt innovations in order to protect the environment. But this theory lacks how this green supply chain or innovation practices will have an impact on the performance of the organization. In order to address for this confusion, the innovation diffusion theory suggests that a firm can gain competitive advantage or firm can increase its performance basically based on the innovations. So the innovation diffusion theory was used to bridge the gap in the existing NRBV theory. So as a combination of these three gaps, the research problem was identified. And that was, what's the impact of green supply chain management practices on export performance with the mediating effect of technological innovations? So these are the key terms that I have used in my research study. And this is the purpose and the objectives of this study. Along with the research questions, there were 4 main research questions, and those 4 were classified under 4 research objectives: to investigate the impact of green supply chain management practices on export performance, to examine the impact of green supply chain practices on technological innovations on our export performance, and finally, do technological innovations mediate the relationship between green supply chain management practices and the export performance? So before moving to the literature review or the developmental hypothesis, let me explain the conceptual framework for my study. So this is the conceptual framework, which consisted of 10 hypotheses. The independent variable was green supply chain management practices, and the dependent variable was export performance, and the mediating variable was technological innovations. Technological innovations also I have categorized under 2 main innovations: product innovations and process innovations, because this is the most widely categorized type of technological innovations. So I have evaluated, or I have tested the mediating effect of product innovations and process innovations separately for the relationship between green supply chain and export performance. So this is the development of hypothesis. The first one was green supply chain management practices on export performance, which I identified a clear, a confusion gap, because in some countries, that is most of the developed countries, they are arguing that there's a positive relationship between this green supply chain and export performance. But some of the countries, they argue that no, there is a negative relationship. So it clearly showed that there's a confusion between these 2 variables. And also the empirical gap, if I elaborate it furthermore, as I said before, reverse logistics also have been not identified as part of the green supply chain management practices. And therefore, the first hypothesis was developed. And the second hypothesis was its green supply chain practices on technological innovations. And here also it was identified as a confusion gap, because some countries, they have argued that there's a positive, and some countries, they have identified there's no any relationship and also a negative relationship. And the third one was technological innovations impact on export performance. But here, most of the countries have identified that there's a positive relationship, because if you adopt more technological innovations in a country or in a firm, that will lead them to increase the performance. And the fourth and the fifth hypothesis was based on product innovations, that is green supply chain management practices on product innovations and product innovations on export performance. And the sixth hypothesis was based on process innovations, because I have categorized the mediating effect of process innovations as for the relationship between green supply chain and export performance. And this is the mediating effect, and where I have developed the hypothesis H8, H9, and H10, where the first one was technological innovations mediate the relationship between green supply chain and export. This H9 was product innovations, and H10 was process innovations. So this is basically based on the natural resource-based view in order to bridge the gap between this, in the natural resource based view, I have used this particular hypothesis. So this is the methodology that I have used to conduct my research study. The overall study was a quantitative one, a positivistic, deductive, and a cross-sectional study. And I have distributed the self-administrated questionnaires, and the data analysis was done using SPSS and the smart PLS software. And the unit of analysis was organizations, where I have collected data from the owners or the supply chain managers of the organizations. One questionnaire was collected from one organization. So that's why it says the unit of analysis is organizations. And the population was, as I have identified the problem as this export performance, my population was consisted of exporting organizations in Sri Lanka. There are 416 exporters who have registered under the National Chamber of Exporters in Sri Lanka. I have distributed the questionnaire among them. And the sample size was 165, and the method was convenient sampling. So this is the operationalization which helped me to conduct the questionnaire or to develop the questionnaire, which is consisted of 33 items. And this is the results of the pilot study and the survey data. So after all these things, the data analysis was done, and the data cleansing was done, and then the test for multivariate assumptions was done: normality, multicollinearity, linearity, and homoscedasticity. And the data analysis was done using the smart PLS software, as I mentioned. So this is the structural equation model, and the validity and the reliability tests were done separately for the higher order constructs and for the lower order constructs. So these are the values for to refer. And then the hypothesis testing was done. First, H1, H2, H3 was conducted using the structural equation modeling, and all the hypotheses were supported. And H4 and H5, it also got supported. H6 and H7 also got supported. And then the mediation impact was identified. So when I'm going to explain about the mediation impact, as I mentioned, there were 3 mediation variables in my research. So the first one was technological innovations, second one was product innovations, and the third one was process innovations. The mediating impact of technological innovations was supported in the study, but for the product innovations, it identified that there's no any mediation impact, whereas for the process innovations, it identified that there is a partial mediation for the study. So these are the summary of the findings, where H9 only got not supported, whereas all the other 9 hypotheses got supported for the study. And moving to the discussion. The first one, green supply chain and the export performance. So as I mentioned, there was a negation, at the same time, there was a confusion gap in this particular hypothesis. Because in developed countries, they say there's a positive, and whereas in some countries, there is a negative relationship. So in this particular study, it was identified that in the Sri Lankan industries, there's a positive relationship between the green supply chain management practices and the export performance. So this may be, the reason may be the adoption of green supply chain management practices has the ability to meet the international standards and specifications of products, because they will contribute more to the export performance in a higher way. Because now the exporting organizations or the countries in the international market, they are seeking for the products that are eco-friendly. And moving to the second hypothesis, green supply chain and the technological innovations. So here, there have been identified a positive relationship in most of the developed countries, whereas some countries, it says, no, there's a negative relationship. The reason, this is mainly due to the availability and the rapidly changing technologies. Because of this, manager will make decisions to cooperate and to operate strategies in order to gain competitive advantage in the long run. And moving to the third hypothesis, it was technological innovations and the export performance. So here also, it was identified that there's a contradictory results among 2 variables, but even though there are contradictory results, the present study, which is based on Sri Lanka, which is a developing country, it explains that the South Asian region countries can implement technological innovations in order to promote the export performance in the organizations. This is mainly due to the organizations can gain advantage and experience from the international markets in order to export more to the international markets. And then the H4 and H5 is identified. And here also I should explain that the product innovations, when I'm going to explain about product innovations, the research study has identified if you adopt more green supply chain practices, the companies will have the ability to promote more product innovations in their organization. At the same time, if you have more products in your innovations, that will help to gain the market in the international market, which of course will help you to increase the export performance. And at 6 and at 7, the same scenario happens where the companies will, if the companies adopt green supply chain management practices, that will help to incorporate more process innovations in your organization, because then you will experience how you can protect the environment while promoting some innovations in the process that you are going to follow. And if so, that will help to increase the export performance as well. Moving to the mediation effect. The technological innovations mediate the relationship between the green supply chain management practices and export performance. So here I have identified, in order to bridge the theory gap between the innovation diffusion theory and the NRBV theory. And here it must say that there was a mediation effect from the technological innovations point of view. And in the product innovation, it explains that no, it does not mediate the relationship. The reason was, nowadays, consumers are more knowledge, they have more knowledge, and they are seeking not only for the final product to be eco-friendly, but they want the entire process that you are going to manufacture to be eco-friendly. So that's why I have identified process innovations mediate the relationship, but not the process innovations. So these are the theoretical implications where I have expanded the NRBV theory and validate the mediating role of the technological innovations. And also, I have contributed the reverse logistics as one of the dimensions for green supply chain. And also, I have contributed to bridge some gaps in the confusion gaps, as I mentioned. And when I'm going to consider about the managerial implications, organizations are highly promoted to promote green supply chain management practices using eco-design, enabling customers, and so on. So, and also, even though the initiation of green practices is lower in developing countries compared to the developed countries, it's recommended for the countries in the Asian region to promote more. The reason is, it says that majority of world's manufacturing will be taken place in the Asia in the coming future. So therefore, organizations need to assess their strengths and weaknesses, and they can have some standards like ISO 14001, Green Guide, and so on to promote the green supply chain in their organization. And at the same time, the organizations can promote more process innovations, because not like in product innovations, process innovations are the things that you can't imitate. Samsung can't imitate the process innovations conducted by Apple. So that's why it says it's easy for the organization to imitate product but not process. So it's highly advantage if you can promote more process innovations. And this study will contribute to some of the sustainable development goals as well. And since I have discussed about export performance, this will be helpful for the organization or for a country to overcome from the economic crisis as well. So these are the limitations. I have used the convenience sampling, and the data was collected only a particular period of time. And for the future researchers, they can examine the individual factors of green supply chain, and also they can collect data from multiple respondents, and they can expand the type of technological innovations into like social innovations and so on. So this is the conclusion. So since we are living in a globalized market, its export performance is highly essential for the organizations if they want to survive in the market. So green supply chain is one of the key factors that they can promote while promoting or while protecting the environment. At the same time, they can more focus on process innovations than product innovations, because that of course can't be imitated by the other organizations. So that's it, and thank you so much.
Madhuka, insights now on your presentation, which you can really value and make use of for your future research. So I can see that you are definitely passionate about the topic. When it comes to the methodology, it's very rigorous, and the scientific process as required you have adopted. So you have, I can see, been involved in a very good research. So certain questions to just for my clarification I have. You mentioned very clearly that the exports are declining in Sri Lanka. So was it the same for all these companies, 167 that you have taken?
Yes, madam.
Yeah.
Because I have initially in my questionnaire, I have asked one question whether there's any decline in your export performance in the
Right.
industries, and then only I have collected
Yes,
data.
that's what I wanted to know. What are the other filtering criteria you used?
I have used the green supply chain management
Whether they
practice.
practice.
Yes, madam.
So they have some to
Yes,
us.
madam. And
So among them, are they direct suppliers, or are they indirect suppliers also?
if I say it like this, madam, sometimes they used to adopt green supply chain management practices within and also external from their supply chain, but they are not very accurately know whether this is a green supply chain management practice. But indirectly, they knows that this is something that you can protect your environment. So I have used some questions to filter that one, and then only I have considered it to my questionnaire.
Okay, why I asked was we know our exports, most of it is done indirectly rather than
Yes.
directly, where no green or supply chain management technique takes, but perhaps some clarity in the introduction you would have mentioned, because our understanding is direct exports are quite low. So maybe those who directly export definitely might be having some direct supply chain
Yes.
practices. So that clarity I thought of, definitely those filtering questionnaires would have helped you. And you mentioned two theories. Did you use both the innovation diffusion theory, and also you mentioned natural resource-based view? Yeah.
Yes, madam. So if I elaborate it more, like my independent variable was green supply chain management, and the dependent variable was export performance. So the NRBV, what it explains is, if you adopt environmental friendly practices, the organization can gain competitive advantage in the long run. So that's for that, of course, I have used the innovation diffusion theory. But the innovation diffusion, the natural resource based view. So the natural resource based view, madam, it explains a framework for innovations, but the theory lacks how it can increase the performance of the organizations. Whereas the innovation diffusion theory, it explains if you adopt innovations, you can increase your performance more. So in order to bridge the gap in the NRBV theory, I have used technological innovations as the mediation impact, and then use innovation diffusion theory along with the NRBV
Good.
theory.
So you used it basically to support the underlying argument of
Yes,
your
madam.
study. No,
Yes.
excellent. So that is also one clarification you could make. And finally, what I would like to ask is, you did mention the implications, and definitely there's a lot that the industry could take, since the theme of the conference is also on value creation. So what would you few things that you would want to communicate to the industry in terms of their value delivery process?
Yes, madam. Thank you for asking that question, madam. And as I explained, the organizations are highly advised or recommended to promote green supply chain management practices, not like when we hear the term green practices, now the organization, what they think is applying green on the walls is what you mean by green supply chain. No, it's not. But what green supply chain is, from the point where you design your product to the ultimate customers, and even after the ultimate customers. That's why I explained about reverse logistics. You should have some eco-friendly practices in your organizations. So I would recommend the industry or the factories to think about from the point where you design the product until you get the product back to the customers. So you should like promote green supply chain management practices where co-designing may be, where you can incorporate customers for the designing process, because then only you will know what the customers want. If not, they will return the product back to the organization, which will be a cost for the organization. At the same time, which will be a disadvantage for the environment as well. At the same time, the organizations can use some like standards. As I mentioned, ISO standards maybe, Green Guard maybe. So then organization will know, the foreign organization, the importers there will know, okay, that this company is adopting some environmental friendly practices. The Sri Lankan organizations can prove it, because I have green processes in my organization. Then only the international market can examine that this is a company where you have
Maybe you
some
can
products.
extend that as your future research, no,
Yes,
the
madam.
extent to which that they are applying
Yes,
green
madam.
supply chain practices. Okay, thank you.
Welcome. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Professor Madhuka, for those very insightful comments which will benefit our researchers very much. Thank you. I'm sure you benefited a lot for your future work. Thank you very much for your presentation. And moving on to the next one, Arani Rodrigo. Arani Rodrigo will make a presentation of her research on the impact of social media influencers' credibility on millennial consumers' green purchasing behavior, a study on personal and social identities. Arani Rodrigo.
So good morning, I'm Arani and I will be presenting the research on the impact of social media influencers credibility on the millennial consumers' green purchasing behavior, which is a study on the personal and social identities. So this would be the overview of the presentation. I will be taking you through the research process and the findings and discussion. So looking at the research problem, so if we take consumers, usually if there are people who identify themselves to be concerned about the environment, who consider themselves to be involved with green purchasing, thereby creating green purchasing intentions and identities. But if you have been observant, you might have noticed that they are not really showing green purchasing behaviors when you take the actual situation. So looking at the statistics, globally, 85% of consumers are practicing these green purchasing behaviors. And on a study done in Sri Lanka, it has been identified that 99% of the consumers are aware of the negative impact that their consumption can have. And 91% actually consider themselves to be responsible for taking on green purchasing behaviors. But only 42% actually get involved with these green purchasing behaviors. So looking at literature about this problem, so there is a lack of literature regarding the gap between green purchasing intentions and behaviors. So it has been identified by Moser, who says that antecedents that affect the consumer decisions have not been studied extensively, and researchers have not really connected identity-related green consumption behavior as well as the impact that advertising can have on green consumption behaviors. And finally, there is a difference between the social and self-identity, and this has not been brought forward in literature as Karush and Kare have identified. So the problem is addressed through these research questions and objectives. The first question being, what is the impact of personal identity on green purchasing intention? Second being, what is the impact of social identity on green purchasing intention? And finally, what is the impact of SMI, meaning the social media influencers, on the green purchasing behavior gap studied under those objectives? Looking at the theoretical significance, so the base theory used for this study is theory of planned behavior, taking on the relationship between intention and behavior. And this theory of planned behavior has three antecedents to intention: attitude, subjective norms, and perceived behavioral control, which are like extracts of the identity. So the social identity theory gives a whole overview of identity, while giving the differentiation between personal and social identity. So this has also been incorporated for this study. And finally, to identify the impact that SMI would have on the behavior intention gap, the source credibility model has been accommodated to it, taking on the attractiveness, expertise, and trustworthiness of social media influencers. And looking at the managerial significance, so the impact of consumers' personal and social identities when making decisions is important to be identified, because when making promotions, they can address these specific identities. And finally, a lot of businesses are now applying social media influencers for their marketing and advertising purposes. So in that case, knowing which social media influencers to be used for their promotions is important. And finally, looking at the societal and ecological significance. So findings can be applied in promoting green products, because countries globally, we are trying to move on to a sustainable economy. So because of that, these findings can be applied in promoting these products, in promoting these behaviors, green purchasing behaviors, and it will also contribute towards reaping the expected benefits from the investments that are being made in eco-efficient projects. So literature, I have looked into literature in these areas, and I will be discussing them in hypothesis development. So the first hypothesis is that the personal identity of millennials has an impact on the purchase intention. So when taking the personal identity, that means the individual identifies themselves by creating a required relationship between the personal self and the society, trying to generate a unique identity for themselves. So in communicating that identity, in communicating that personal self in the society, they tend to consider the products to be a representation of who they are. So the consumers try to communicate the inclusiveness of their identities through these products. So as per the social identity theory, I have taken the relationship between the personal identity and the purchasing intention. The second hypothesis is that social identity of millennials has an impact on the purchase intention. So when we take an individual, they play a certain role in the society. And so to ensure that they belong to a certain social group, they use this social identity. So their personal judgments are also affected by how they want to appear in the society, hence how they want to show that their social identity is. So again, these consumers who are representative of a social group would try to communicate this through their purchase intentions, through the products that they are using. So as per the social identity theory, we can generate a relationship between the individual's behavioral decisions and their social identities. The third hypothesis looks into the impact that green purchasing behavior has with the green purchasing intention. So why there is a gap is because, according to literature, sometimes people want to create a uniqueness for themselves. So they may say that they want to consume this product, they have an intention, but when you take their behavior, that could be different because they are trying to generate a uniqueness for themselves. And on the other hand, if you are used to acting in a certain way, and if you need to change this behavior in order to adopt new purchasing behaviors, then people would be reluctant to do that. So as per literature, this creates a gap between the intentions and behaviors of individuals. The hypothesis 4, 5, and 6 are based on the source credibility model, so looking into the SMI's attractiveness, expertise, and trustworthiness. If we take attractiveness, the fourth hypothesis states that the SMI's attractiveness moderates the impact of GPI on GPB. That means the gap between intention and behavior is moderated by the SMI's attractiveness. Why this is stated is because attractiveness refers to the physical attractiveness. And if people find an appeal or likability to these social media influencers, then it is likely to encourage these purchases through the social media influencers. Then the SMI's expertise moderating the impact of GPI on GPB. This was said because the social media influencers share information based on their personal experience, expertise, and beliefs. So if people consider themselves to be experts, then it is said that there will be more credibility for the information they share, thereby being able to convince people to go ahead with their green purchasing behaviors. Finally, the SMI's trustworthiness moderates the impact of GPI on GPB. So this is because consumers are more likely to associate the products with their endorsers, that is the social media influencers. So the trustworthiness provides more validity to the messages that are being communicated. And when the consumers are evaluating the brands, they are more likely to trust brands promoted by people that they deem to be trustworthy. So as per the source credibility model, it is said that the trustworthiness determines how reliable a product is considered to be. Then this would be the conceptual framework. So the personal identity and social identity leads towards the green purchasing intention, which leads to the green purchasing behavior as per theory of planned behavior. And this relationship between intention and behavior are moderated by the social media influencers' credibility in terms of attractiveness, expertise, and trustworthiness. So this is the methodology. This was a quantitative study, and the survey instrument was a structured self-administered questionnaire. And the unit of analysis was the individual, that is a millennial consumer. And the population was considered to be the millennial consumers in Sri Lanka, and a sample of 400 was selected under convenience sampling. And the questionnaire was developed using previous literature. So the questionnaires were 400 questionnaires were distributed, and there was an effective response rate of 95%. And a pilot study was done prior to the main data analysis and questionnaire distribution. Data preparation was done through SPSS software, and these tests were conducted to ensure that the data was suitable for study. Once the data met the prerequisites, the PLS-SCM analysis was conducted, and to ensure the construct reliability and validity, the AVE was considered. And this is the measurement model developed through PLS-SCM. Then to ensure the convergent and discriminant validity of the model, tests were done through PLS-SCM, and also analysis of coefficient determination, R squared, F squared, and Q squared were done. Moving towards the hypothesis testing, so the second hypothesis was not supported, meaning that the social identity of millennials has an impact on purchase intention was not accepted. And the others that were not accepted were the SMI's attractiveness having a moderating impact and the SMI's trustworthiness having a moderating impact. And this will be discussed further. So taking the first one, the personal identity of millennials has an impact on the purchase intention. This hypothesis was accepted because, so this is in line with what literature presents. And this further confirms that an individual's personal identity plays a major role in their purchasing decisions. On the contrary, the social identity of a millennial is taken to be insignificant in addressing the grain purchasing intentions of millennial consumers. So this is actually contradictory to what the social identity theory presented, but then it can be accommodated to the context of the study as per Johnson et al. Because based on different contexts, the results can be different. And the third hypothesis saying that there is an impact on the green purchasing behavior by the green purchasing intention of millennial consumers was accepted. So as per the theory of planned behavior also, intention leads to behavior. And this is somewhat contradictory to some studies which said that there is a gap between intention and behavior because of the reluctance to adopt various habits and various behaviors. But there's a majority of studies which actually accept this finding. And the fourth hypothesis stating that the SMI's attractiveness moderates the impact of GPI on GPB was rejected. And therefore, it suggests that attractiveness does not have an impact, but it is contradictory to findings of certain researchers. Then again, SMI's expertise having a moderating impact on GPI was accepted, and it is in line with the literature that is available. And the final hypothesis stating that the SMI's trustworthiness moderates the impact on GPI was rejected, stating that trustworthiness does not have a significant impact. But when we take the last three, it can be accommodated to the type of product. So in this study, we studied the green products. And if we take Shooten, according to that one study, when that person has compared between two products, the results have been different. So when we take various products, even for green products, if we take different categories, the results can be different. Looking into the theoretical implications, so theory of planned behavior was used in this study, and it was extended to have the overall impact of personal and social identities. And the social identity theory was applied in the context of green purchasing intentions and behavior. And the source credibility model was taken to study the impact of social media influencers in encouraging consumer behaviors. Looking into the managerial implications, so more businesses are focusing on the development of green products, the adoption of green practices, and encouraging these green consumption behaviors. And as per this study, when developing such products and when trying to promote such products, it would be more important to address the personal identity rather than taking the social identity of these consumers. And in promoting them, a lot of businesses are now using social media influencers. So rather than taking any random individual with a large follower base, it is recommended to have people who have more expertise because that was given more weightage as per the findings of this study. And for the social and ecological implications, so governments and international organizations have invested in large projects in the hopes of implementing a sustainable economy. So in encouraging people or in convincing people to adopt the green purchasing behaviors, it would be beneficial if they address the personal elements of the citizens rather than addressing the society as a one, because the personal identity has more weightage in encouraging green purchasing intentions. In considering the limitations of the study, so the sample considered was limited to Sri Lanka, and the data collection was conducted during a turbulent time in Sri Lanka. So apart from the personal and social identities, the economic concerns might have affected their responses as well. And the study does not include variables such as the demographic variables. And the limitations in data collection may include source biasness, observer, and confirmation biasness as well. And for future research, so considering the impact of identity, salience, prominence, and commitment in initiating green purchasing behaviors can be done, because in this study, we only looked at the impact that personal and social identities can have. And these individual identities have other features such as salience, prominence, and commitment, which can affect their behaviors. So these can be incorporated. And conducting this study with a sample from a Western culture may give different findings to what we have got in our country. So this can be compared as well. And expanding this model to include the impact of SMI on consumer identities can be done for future studies, because here only the relationship between intention and behavior were considered. And the SMI can have an influence on the consumer identities as well. And with that, I would conclude the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Arani. I think a much needed study you have embarked on. And definitely you did mention how it can be used by, I'll come to that actually. You mentioned that it can be promoted for the individual behavior rather than the behavior as a whole. I'll come to that in a while. If I ask you, what is the argument of your study? The previous one we saw that the decline in exports despite the pandemic, and as a result, whether this practice of green would promote. So there was some argument. What's the argument? How would you explain the argument?
Yes, ma'am. So as I said at the beginning, when we take people, they consider themselves to be environmentally concerned, and because of that, they say that they have intentions of using these products, intentions of using organic products, green products, likewise. But when we take the actual one, it's different. So in this study, what I'm trying to say is, if this gap can be bridged using the social media influences. So sample
I
frame.
know it's the millennials. Did you have any other filtering criteria as well? Whether they're at the moment consuming green, not at all?
There were questions, such questions in asking about the green purchasing behavior. So for that, they asked if they are using organic products, if they are doing recycling, that type of behaviors are there.
Previous one, it would have been really good if you provided the profile data related to the topic. Then some of these questions we could avoid, such as what is the extent of the implementation of green, and what's the extent that they have they use green products and all. And then also they looked at it in an overall perspective, no? So did you also try to attempt whether what's the product if they're willing to buy? Yeah, so it's general behavior.
General green purchasing.
Yeah. So therefore it could change, because I see myself, I try to take a bag to the supermarket each time I go, but I fail. But some are really committed. So which context you talk about? If you have at least done it with the multi-group analysis, or have used your sample frame in a future study, then you can narrowly, very closely identify these behavioral patterns. That's what I thought, since it's a broader study. And why did you specifically maybe a justification for bringing millennials in this generational cohorts?
So millennials were selected. If we take the baby boomers and the generations before millennials, they are not very familiar with the term social media influencers. So usually they look at the television, the newspapers, or social media in terms of Facebook, likewise. But if we take social media influencers, they are more popular among the millennials. So usually if we take them, they are in our age, and their promotions are done targeting the millennials as well. Most of them do. So they say that people are supposed to be using these green products. You should recycle more. You should do that.
Actually, I also follow some influencers, but mostly they're subscribing to some products. So maybe as a value addition in tourism, I know they have some, those who are promoting eco and those concepts.
That is actually why their expertise is important. So usually when we when a company picks these social media influencers, they look at the attractiveness, they look at the follower base, how many people are following, but very little is given to the expertise of these people. So if these people, most of the time ecologists, they try to promote these things, but they are not really used through businesses to promote these products. So that's why I'm saying that expertise is an important point here.
Okay, like in the previous study, I did see the methodology, the rigor you have adopted. One more thing to both of you, it's always good to say that convenience purposive sampling, because if you have had filtering criteria, you can say that is a purposive sampling. Other than that, why it's good to have the argument is now it's green purchase behavior and the intention, and I bring millennials. So those things have to have an argument why I bring the millennials. So in a quantitative study, anything can be connected. So in the future, you can actually explore this concept much in detail, green purchase behavior in what products, why, and also why aren't they buying, bringing that statistic. So, and having a very thorough idea about how things are getting connected, because I feel more filtering questions at least could be included to make sure that the findings are for a specific sample frame. So I think your future research, maybe you can embark on a particular product category. Now you know about the intention in
Millennials.
general, yes.
In literature, they say that there are generational differences in looking into this behavior.
And also other thing why I just highlighted that your moderators were not getting accepted, no?
Yes, only expertise was accepted.
That's right. So expertise may be because I think for me, that's why I said explore this context much more in general. Green consciousness is innate in the travelers, innate in the consumers. So perhaps whether an expert can change it or not. So that is because it's a very, value-laden concept that you are trying to inculcate in the methodologically, scientifically, it's a very good study. In the future, how you should set up an argument, maybe all the background factors can be taken into account. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very smart. Great. This is on anticipants of life insurance information, which we have about the role of prevention focus, the case prevention and promotion. The submission will be 20 minutes. There will be a read after 10 minutes and after 10 minutes.
Good afternoon, madam and everyone. So let me present my study on the antecedents of life insurance purchase intention, the role of regulatory focus relating to prevention and promotion. This is the outline of my presentation. So let me explain my performance gap. In Sri Lanka, the life insurance penetration is at a very low level, as low as 0.69%. in 2020, and this is very low compared to its Asian counterparts who report an average of 3.5% life insurance penetration. And this is not something that surfaced very recently or after COVID. This has been the case for the longest time. For instance, in 2016, the life insurance penetration was 0.54% of GDP. And why I'm highlighting this as an issue is because of the importance of life insurance, not just for the individual or the household or the community, but to the economy and society as a whole. Insurance is considered as a hedge against future uncertainties, and it's helping everyone to ensure financial security. An uninsured risk could drag households into poverty, leading to hindering human development. And on top of that, another benefit of life insurance is it helps to mobilize savings leading to economic growth and development. So life insurance is not just an income cover or a protection tool. It's also a means of saving and investment leading to economic growth and development. But the interesting thing is, and the surprising thing is, although it has so many benefits, still life insurance is categorized as an unsought product in the marketing literature. So there is a clear gap between the potential value of life insurance and the public perception of it. Moving on to my empirical gap, financial psychology and behavioral economic studies have suggested socio-demographic and psychological variables play important roles in the insurance decisions. And also, two important studies, including a comprehensive literature review, reveal that psychological determinants of life insurance purchasing, behavior-related antecedents, and psychographic antecedents are not explored adequately. Also, the same literature review revealed that decision variables such as intention to purchase, willingness to insure, and willingness to change in life insurance ownership are largely unexplored. Moving on to my theoretical gap. Now, life insurance purchase behavior has been studied using various theories, and one of the important theories is the theory of reasoned action, which explains that behavior or intention to behave in a certain way is influenced by the attitude towards the behavior and subjective norms. However, when we talk about attitudes and subjective norms, the developers of the theory, Fishbane and Hodgson, state that these attitudes and subjective norms are influenced by behavioral and normative beliefs, which are in turn influenced by personal, situational, and cultural background factors. And these background factors, however, are not captured in the original theory of reasoned action. And Hodgson and Fishbane have stated that researchers should look beyond the theory of reasoned action model and incorporate such background factors as appropriate by using appropriate theories in the domain of study. So when we look at the attitude towards performing a certain behavior, it has been found that attitudes development requires a person to be motivated, and also they should have the cognitive capacity to do the same. So when we look at motivations could stem from the regulatory focus theory. In my study, I have brought two constructs, prevention regulatory focus and promotion regulatory focus, from the regulatory focus theory to explain these internal motivational mechanisms leading to attitudes towards life insurance purchase, which would in turn lead to an intention to purchase life insurance. So based on these literature, I have developed these research objectives and research questions. So I have 3 research objectives. One is to identify the impact of prevention regulatory focus and promotion regulatory focus on the intention to purchase life insurance. Second one, to identify whether attitude mediates the relationship between regulatory foci, the 2 regulatory foci, and the intention to purchase life insurance. And finally, to identify the impact of attitude and subjective norm on the life insurance purchase intention. So based on the objectives, I have developed 3 research questions. When we look at the significance of the study, my study has both theoretical significance and managerial significance. In terms of the theoretical significance, this study mainly focuses on the impact of an individual's regulatory focus on the intention to purchase life insurance. So it could reveal the how internal motivational forces would translate into favorable attitudes and then into an intention. The study basically focuses on the mediating role of attitudes towards life insurance purchase intention in the relationship between regulatory focus and intention. And in terms of the managerial significance, the insights gained from this study will help the life insurance companies to adapt their marketing campaigns and marketing approaches, especially the relational selling efforts of their insurance agents, to effectively communicate about their products and convince the insurance prospects to purchase life insurance products. And companies can train their insurance agents to gain more insights on the background details of the life insurance prospects and try to understand their regulatory focus, and then promote their products to change unfavorable attitudes towards life insurance and to promote favorable attitudes towards life insurance and to promote the purchase of life insurance policies. So moving on to my conceptualization, I have developed 8 hypotheses. Hypothesis 1, prevention regulatory focus impacts life insurance purchase intention. Now, prevention regulatory focus, if an individual is prevention regulatory focus, this individual will be basically motivated by the desire to avoid negative outcomes, risks, and uncertainties, and they will focus on fulfilling their obligations and responsibilities. And the concept of prevention is found to be closely related to the concept of prudence often found in the life insurance economics literature. And it is found that persons with prevention regulatory focus are likely to be driven by the motivation to secure their financial future. And another study has found that individuals with prevention regulatory focus are more willing to save in order to achieve their prevention-related goals. Moving on to hypothesis 2, promotion regulatory focus impacts life insurance purchase intention. Now, if an individual is promotion regulatory focus, they will be motivated by the desire to achieve positive outcomes and achieve advancement, growth, and reach their ideal self. So studies have found that people with promotion regulatory focus are motivated to save more in order to achieve their personal consumption goals. And life insurance in this context is often viewed as a savings tool or an investment tool that could yield them tax benefits and adequate returns in future. Moving on to my third hypothesis, prevention regulatory focus impacts attitude towards life insurance purchase. Now, Higgins in 1988 provided evidence that regulatory focus of individuals could have an impact on people's feelings, thoughts, and actions. So meaning the prevention regulatory focus or promotion regulatory focus could impact on people's attitudes and behaviors. And it has been found that developing attitude towards a particular behavior requires a person to be motivated and should have the cognitive capacity to do the same. When it comes to insurance, insurance is deemed to enhance financial security in terms of how people perceive losses. Insurance is deemed to enhance financial security. And when it comes to how people look at losses, it has been found that people feel losses more intensely than how they would feel about gaining something. So the feeling of loss is more intense than the feeling of gaining something. And another study revealed that certain young respondents perceived life insurance only as a protection tool and thus preferred life insurance as a means of protecting their dependents and beneficiaries. Moving on to my fourth hypothesis, promotion regulatory focus impacts attitude towards life insurance purchase. Now, the notion of life insurance as a means of investment or saving was further emphasized through the findings of study undertaken by Fletcher and Hastings in 1984. And it was revealed that life insurance was viewed or often perceived as a means of saving. And they were mostly inspired by the savings aspect of life insurance rather than the protection aspect of it. Then moving on to my fifth hypothesis, the impact of prevention regulatory focus on life insurance purchase intention is mediated by attitude towards life insurance purchase. Now, in theory of reasoned action, when developing the theory of reasoned action, Fishbane and Ajzen has stated that if you're bringing any variable from outside the original theory of reasoned action, it has to influence the behavior or intention through attitudes or subjective norms. And also, another study revealed that for an individual to develop an attitude towards a behavior or something, they have to be motivated and they should have the cognitive capacity to do the same. And when it comes to motivations, the primary motivation for purchasing life insurance is identified as obtaining financial relief or compensation in the event of untimely death or disability of the main income earner of the family. And also, it has been found that the main aim of obtaining life insurance is to protect oneself and their dependents from adverse financial consequences. Moving on to my sixth hypothesis, the impact of promotion regulatory focus on life insurance purchase intention is mediated by the attitude towards life insurance purchase. Now, purchasing life insurance is deemed to reflect the notion of promotion regulatory focus of individuals because people are more inclined to purchase life insurance nowadays because it looks like a savings tool, an investment means. So it highlights or it emphasizes the promotion aspect of people. And in line with this argument, Norman and Connor found that insurance is generally viewed as an investment used to make positive gains from a loss or a negative event. So that helped me to develop hypothesis 6. Then hypothesis 7, attitude towards life insurance purchase impacts life insurance purchase intention. So a lot of studies undertaken in the realm of life insurance purchase intention have stated that attitude is a strong determinant of life insurance purchase intention, and same goes for subjective norms. A lot of studies done in the realm of life insurance purchase intention and purchase behavior has stated that subjective norms are strong determinants of life insurance purchase intention and behavior. So this is my conceptual framework. And moving on to the methodology. So in terms of the study design, it is a quantitative study using survey strategy and a cross-sectional study. I have used a structured self-administered questionnaire, and data analysis was done using SPSS and Smart PLS4, and the unit of analysis was individual. So in this case, I had to pick an individual between 25 to 50 years, living in Colombo or Gampa district, earning an income and has not yet purchased life insurance. In terms of the population for my study, the population was population of people aged 25 to 50 years, living in Colombo and Gampa districts, who are earning an income and have not purchased life insurance yet. So the reason why I picked this 25 to 50 years age group is because it is the insurable age group as per the prior studies. And why I picked Colombo and Gampa districts is because these two districts are considered as urban areas in the country where there is the richest 20% of the population. And also why I picked Colombo and Gampa districts is because a lot of financial services are available in these two districts. And for an individual to purchase life insurance, they should have a source of income. So hence the criteria of earning an income. And the sample was 420 individuals. And the sampling method that I used was non-probability method, purposive sampling. And this is the questionnaire development. And I have distributed 420 questionnaires, and response rate was 88.57%. And the final sample size was 369 after excluding the missing values. Data analysis was conducted and tests for common method bias, non-response bias were conducted and ensured no common method bias or non-response bias, and tests for normality, linearity, homoscedasticity, and multicollinearity were conducted and ensured the test met the criteria and thresholds. Reliability and validity tests were done and ensured that they met the required criteria and thresholds. This is the structural model of my study. And analysis of F square and Q square effect size were done. And in terms of my hypothesis testing, hypothesis 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 8 all were supported with positive significant impacts. And in terms of mediator analysis, I had to conduct two mediator analysis. One is where I studied the impact of prevention. Sorry, one is where I studied the impact of attitudes on the relationship between prevention regulatory focus and life insurance purchase intention. Here I found that the attitudes mediate or partially mediates the relationship between prevention regulatory focus and life insurance purchase intention. And the second mediator analysis, where I studied the mediating impact of attitude on the relationship between promotion regulatory focus and life insurance purchase intention. Here also, I could find that there is a partial mediation present. In terms of discussion, hypothesis 1, the findings were in line with the prior studies, and for hypothesis 2 also, the findings were in line with the prior studies, indicating that both prevention regulatory focus and promotion regulatory focus had positive significant impact on life insurance purchase intention. And in terms of hypothesis 3 and 5, where I studied the impact of prevention regulatory focus on the attitudes towards life insurance purchase and the mediating impact of attitudes on the relationship between prevention regulatory focus and life insurance purchase intention. Again, I found that the results are in line with the prior studies, and they supported the findings of the prior studies. Hypothesis 4 and 6, again, the findings of my study are in line with the findings of the previous studies, which indicated that promotion regulatory focus positively and significantly impacted attitude towards life insurance purchase, and there could be a mediating impact of attitudes in the relationship between promotion regulatory focus and life insurance purchase intention. Hypothesis 7, attitude towards life insurance purchase impacts life insurance purchase intention. Again, the findings of my study indicated there is a positive significant impact of attitude on life insurance purchase intention. These findings are in line with the existing findings of prior studies. Same goes for hypothesis 8, subjective norms impact life insurance purchase intention. The findings indicated that there is a positive significant impact of subjective norms on life insurance purchase intention. These findings are on par with the existing findings of prior studies. In terms of theoretical implications, my study revealed that attitude towards life insurance acts as a stronger determinant of life insurance purchase intention compared to subjective norms. And this current study extends the theory of reasoned action. Can I continue or stop? Okay.
Thank you for your presentation. I think I had the privilege to listen to you.
Yes, you were there. Yes.
I think I have given you some comments. What I would like to ask you is why you selected. Are there any factors that would not belong to promotion and prevention? If you look at it differently now, would
Yes.
there be any other factors which has not been included in promotion and prevention when it comes to insurance purchasing?
When it comes to insurance, other than promotion and prevention, I think coping behaviors is a similar aspect, but it has not been studied so far.
I think I would have mentioned that they also, I listened to a qualitative researcher who's doing the PhD, and after compiling all those, so many number of articles, he found what is missing there is the engagement of his studies about that, the engagement of the insurance agent, his involvement and how that makes a difference in formation of a positive attitude and how that leads to purchase intention.
Yeah.
So other than these factors, perhaps you can think about the organizing intrinsic and the other extrinsic
Yes.
factors. If you're really interested to take
Yes.
this forward. Colombo and Nampa, you did, I was about to ask if you justified that. So do you have statistics to prove it? Colombo and Gampa has the highest density of population of
Yes.
insurance purchase.
20% of the richest population live in Colombo and Gampa district, madam.
That's the criteria.
Yes, and these two are considered as urban areas. According to statistics and according to reports, especially central bank reports, these two are considered as urban areas where there is the highest population. And also a lot of financial services are available in these two areas.
And said physical questionnaires were distributed.
Yes.
How did you register both areas? Did you have some help?
Uh,
400, no?
Yes, 420. I actually used the help of students and
Like
yes,
that,
friends.
because,
Yes.
If it's online, it would have been much
Yes.
easier. Perhaps that you can incorporate in your methodology. I don't, since I didn't read your report, maybe it's
Yeah.
included there.
Yeah.
So what would be these few factors, 2 or 3, how the insurance industry should approach to increase their sales in terms of insurance? What would be the first 3 best? I didn't have the
Yeah. So in terms of the managerial implications, if I would explain.
Out of it, what do you think has they should do to sell an insurance to me? Because I'm also quite reluctant.
Yes, everyone seems to be reluctant because I think insurance agents need to be equipped with the knowledge to understand their customers at a very micro level and try to get details about their background. Maybe ask a few questions to see where they stand in terms of their regulatory focus. Are there prevention regulatory focus or promotion regulatory focus? So based on that basic understanding, the insurance agent can pitch their products. So
Which one is higher when it comes to your descriptive statistics?
when it comes to my statistics and analysis, prevention regulatory focus had a direct impact on direct strong impact on life insurance purchase intention. But if a person is promotion regulatory focus, madam, this has to come through promotion. I mean, this has to come through attitudes towards life insurance. So a promotion regulatory focused person needs to first develop positive attitude towards life insurance, and then it would translate into life insurance purchase intention.
So that agents involvement is
Yes,
much
agents engagement is exceptionally
communication.
important. Yes. Yes.
This study, I can see that you have spent a lot of time on this. Well done. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, dear madam and my dear fellow researchers. Today I'm going to present my study on factors affecting the knowledge sharing behavior of employees and the mediating role of self-efficacy. So this will be the content that I'll be covering through my presentation. And when it comes to knowledge management, especially with respect to my area of focus, which is the aviation industry, the knowledge is considered as an asset within the organizations that should be retained and critically acknowledged. So in terms of the aviation industry, the costs which incur due to the poor knowledge sharing behavior of employees make up a major portion of the aviation expenses. And also, the researchers have studied in their scholarly investigations the errors and lack of teamwork and build-up of knowledge silos as resultants of this poor knowledge sharing behavior of the employees. And also, the ideal situation is that the International Civil Aviation Organization has highlighted and given regulations and policies to minimize the factors which threaten the aviation safety. But the actual situation is that 14% of the accidents and serious incidents which occur in the aviation industry is due to the knowledge factor. So that has been investigated by the European Aviation Safety Agency. And when it comes to the empirical gap, researchers have identified and they have directed to explore the factors which affect the knowledge sharing behavior of employees in different fields. And they have also suggested that these factors which influence the knowledge sharing behavior of employees might be changed from field to field as well as from the employee category. So also I found that there exists a scarce amount of empirical evidence for the study of knowledge sharing factors, the factors influencing knowledge sharing behavior of employees in aviation industry, as well as the scholars have insisted on experimenting or exploring these factors affecting knowledge sharing behavior of employees using multiple theories. Among those theories, I could found that social cognitive theory, social exchange theory, organizational learning theory. Like that, there are many theories have been used to study this behavior. And among them, theory of reasoned action has been used as a base theory to explore the behavior of employees especially. So looking and also through many scholarly articles, I could found that the knowledge sharing self-efficacy to be a impactful factor which affect the knowledge sharing behavior of the employees. But the theory of reasoned action was not looking through the theory of reasoned action was not enough to explain this impactful effect of the knowledge sharing self-efficacy. So I incorporated these two theories to bridge that gap, and the self-efficacy theory was brought into a combination with the theory of reasoned action. So the purpose of this study was to study and explore about the factors which affect the knowledge sharing behavior of the employees, as well as to study about the mediating role of self-efficacy on knowledge sharing intention and knowledge sharing behavior of the employees. So I formulated these research questions as well as these objectives to guide my study forward. And when it comes to the significance of this study, it's threefold with respect to the theoretical, empirical, and the managerial significance. So with respect to the theoretical significance, this research will expand the boundaries of the theory of reasoned action when it comes to the combination with self-efficacy theory. And when it comes to the empirical significance, this research will highlight and add onto the scarce amount of researchers which exist in the extant literature, which falls into the study of factors which affect knowledge sharing behavior of employees in the aviation industry, as well as specifically the aviation industry in Sri Lanka. And when it comes to managerial significance, as I mentioned, that 14% of the accidents and serious incidents are attributed to the knowledge factor. So the managers and the other stakeholders in the aviation industry this research will be able to grab their attention in enhancing aviation safety, as well as overall quality and productivity of aviation. And also, the researchers have identified that the factors affecting knowledge sharing behavior might improve the efficiency and it might improve the competitive advantage of the industry as well. So when it comes to the methodology, I have formulated 6 hypotheses using the base theories of theory of recent action as well as the self-efficacy theory. First hypothesis is to consider about the relationship between intention and behavior among employees, and then the second one is about attitude towards knowledge sharing and knowledge sharing intention among employees, and third one is the subjective norm about knowledge sharing and knowledge sharing intention among employees. The fourth one, knowledge sharing self-efficacy and knowledge sharing behavior among employees, and the fifth one is knowledge sharing intention and knowledge sharing self-efficacy among employees, and the sixth one is the mediation impact, which is the knowledge sharing self-efficacy mediates the relationship between knowledge sharing intention and knowledge sharing behavior. All these hypotheses have been backed up and reinforced with scholarly investigations, and this was my conceptual framework highlighting the knowledge sharing self-efficacy as the mediator. So when it comes to the methodology, my overall study was a quantitative study, and the unit of analysis was individual employees about 20 years of age with a minimum work experience of 3 years, and the population was technical employees within aviation organizations of Sri Lanka, and the sample size was 400 participants, and the sampling method was convenience sampling. And with respect to the questionnaire development, I had 2 sections in my questionnaire. The first section A for investigation in the demographic variables, as well as section B is was to investigate the other variables which were included in my conceptual framework. When it comes to the data analysis, I had 375 numbers of questionnaires or response in return. Among them, I had to discard 6 response due to not meeting my eligibility criteria. Altogether, 369 response were analyzed with an effective response rate of 95.18%. And when it comes to the ensuring the validity and reliability of my item, I had conducted pilot study to ensure the validity and reliability of my study. So when it comes to the data analysis, the preliminary data analysis was conducted using IBM SPSS, which considered the demographic analysis of demographic profile, descriptive statistics, multivariate data assumptions, and exploratory factor analysis for this study, and the structural and measurement models were analyzed using PLSM, SEM, or using Smart PLS software. So this was my measurement model. And when it comes to the investigation or exploration of these direct relationships, except the relationship between intention and behavior, all the direct relationships were supported. And I will explain this, the first relationship which was not supported, that's because due to the mediation impact, the measurement model had to be analyzed without the mediator and with the mediator. When the model was considered without the mediator, the direct effect between intention and behavior was supported, and with the mediator, the direct effect between intention and behavior was not supported. And also the indirect effect between intention, self-efficacy, and knowledge sharing behavior was also supported. With respect to the literature that I have referred, when it comes to the mediator analysis, the direct effect between intention and behavior was significant without the mediator. And then when it comes to continuing the data analysis, the direct effect between intention and behavior was not significant with the mediator. So it can be concluded the existence of the mediation impact with respect to the literature I have referred. And when it comes to the discussion, my first hypothesis was rejected, but it was in par with the previous scholarly investigations. and the other other 5 hypotheses altogether, they were supported and accepted, and they can be further reinforced with the previous literature. All these factors, attitude, subjective norm, knowledge sharing intention, the self-efficacy, and especially the mediating role of the knowledge sharing self-efficacy I was able to prove that the existence of the mediation impact. And also when it comes to the theoretical implications of this study was able to expand the existing literature in relation to the theory of reasoned action as well as the theory of self-efficacy. And also this study was able to empirically verify the factors affecting knowledge sharing behavior with respect to theory of reasoned action as well as the theory of self-efficacy. And also the question items that I have used, I think I was able to further validate them using my data analysis and my overall study. And I think I could address the empirical gap which existed with respect to the factors affecting the knowledge sharing behavior of employees in the aviation industry, and specifically the aviation industry of Sri Lanka using this study. When it comes to the managerial implications, as I mentioned earlier, since 14% of the accidents and serious incidents are attributed to this knowledge factor. So I think these stakeholders within this aviation industry, who are the regulatory authorities, passengers, investors, and other organizations which are concerned in the aviation safety, will grab their attention towards this research in enhancing the overall aviation safety. And also, as I highlighted in the performance gap, this research, the factors I have discovered will be useful for minimizing the human error, improving the overall safety and quality of aviation. And also, as previous authors have mentioned, the factors affecting knowledge sharing behavior will also improve the efficiency and competitive advantage of the organization. If we consider this, since the aviation industry is a dynamic industry with billions of dollars of investments. So if we can improve the efficiency of the industry through these endeavors using at least by 1%, so then this will save another millions of dollars. So I think in that sense, this research is very important. And also, since the aviation industry is a highly regulated industry, there are policies and regulations imposed by the civil aviation authorities, the International Civil Aviation Organization, the European Aviation Safety Organization, and Federal Aviation Administration, like that. So although these external factors which influence the knowledge sharing behavior exist, authors have identified that without this inner change of the employees, these external factors are of no use. So identifying these internal factors that might arise through these employees, this will in combination with these external factors will push forward this knowledge sharing behavior of the employees very easily. And when it comes to the managers point of view, they will be able to develop employee confidence developing programs to enhance their confidence about their knowledge sharing capability and knowledge, and also to enhance their to develop their attitude development programs also can be initiated, which will in turn directly enhance the knowledge sharing behavior of the employees. And also the formally identified performance gap also could be reduced using these findings of this study. When it comes to the limitations, since I have used convenience sampling, it can inherit the underrepresentation of certain individuals within the target population. And also, since I have studied only this aviation industry, and also at the same time, the authors have identified that the factors affecting the employee knowledge sharing behavior can get different from field to field of employment. So the generalization of these findings to other employee categories as well as to other industry categories should be done with caution. And for future research directions, I would like to recommend to include this same theoretical framework that I have formulated to explore the knowledge sharing behavior of employees in other employee categories as well as across other industries as well. And also, when referring to literature, authors have identified some external factors such as organizational culture, the technological factors also to have a significant impact on this knowledge sharing behavior. So I would like to recommend the future researchers to include these factors into the theoretical model and to further explore this model in using different industries as well as among different employee categories. So I think I have achieved all the set objectives of my study, and I have confirmed the mediation impact of self-efficacy as well as the impact of attitude, subjective norms, and self-efficacy and intention of which are variables which I have selected, which could impact the knowledge sharing behavior of the employees. So that's it, and thank you very much for listening.
I think I have seen your presentation also previously. I don't remember, but I would have asked you the same question. Are you from this industry? No, aviation.
Previously, before joining the academy, I was employed at this.
So what are these sort of accidents you talk about here?
Usually in aviation, madam, the accidents are categorized into several categories. Sometimes they categorize the nearly caused accidents as serious incidents, and then they categorize the
Examples.
for an example, sometimes when the aircraft is parked in the ramp area before we getting board to the aircraft, usually the area around the aircraft is cleared and no one is allowed to enter that area. So if something found to be in that area, like foreign, we name them as foreign objects. So if something is found in that area which could get ingested into the engines or any other part of the aircraft, so that would be considered as a serious incident. So such incidents should be prevented and should not let happen.
It's 14% is applicable in our context also.
Yes, ma'am. But actually the it's for the overall knowledge aspect.
Are there instances where the technical staff do not reveal it or?
Yes, ma'am. There are incidents, especially there are regulations within these organizations that the staff should report such incidents as well. But due to certain factors, the employees are reluctant to do that.
So that's what you mean by knowledge sharing.
No, madam, it's not actually only the reporting, but sharing the existing knowledge, their experience, and the knowledge that, especially the tacit knowledge that they gain through their experience. Sometimes these employees they are reluctant to share this knowledge. Yes, willingly.
Yeah, I think if the organization has a mechanism to share like roundtable discussions or weekly or monthly, so their knowledge sharing is facilitated, no?
Yes.
So did you look at whether knowledge sharing is facilitated by this organization?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, there are external factors like technological factors that certain online platforms to share,
Policies and
yeah,
all that.
policies and all. But certainly the sometimes the attitudes of these employees and their self-efficacy and confidence, low confidence might prevent them from sharing their ideas and or even to these online platforms. Although the companies and organizations have facilitated such platforms, the employees might not engage with this.
Maybe it's there in the report, no? Much
Yes,
clarification
yes,
is needed what this is. And so have you given examples of this? So is it a range of incidents or just a few? As you said, I remember the same example you gave last time also. So I hope there are a variety of incidents that you talk about. You mentioned these external factors which is actually related to the organization, no? So rules, policies, procedures, how this practical context, how did you actually cover it through your model? Because I know for this theory when you use, there are certain other items we use to cover this component. I see a little bit of a disconnect between this explanation, context, the practices. So again, you have applied that in a very broader context.
Yes, ma'am. In the sense of these external factors, I haven't incorporated these external factors like organizational culture, the technological factors into my model yet. But when we conduct future researches, then these model.
I think that's a major part. If you really want to create value for the industry, have they made the policies aware? Have they given the opportunity to share? So I think since we have to adopt this theory in our academic setting, we may have selected, but since we're actually talking about value creation, you can have a fresh look at it. All this entire rigorous process might not be required. You could convey what is actually happening and what has to be done. Because I see a little bit of a disconnect, Mark. Don't you think so?
Yes.
Yeah, I see. Because maybe for the qualification, the fulfillment of the requirement, you have to do that in order to create value in the future. I think you have to approach
Yes,
that.
ma'am. In the aviation industry, actually, the safety, we consider this protection and production as two sides of a balance. If we put more weight towards the safety or the protection side, then the company will move towards bankruptcy, like the profits will be impacted. But if we put more weight towards the production, then again the safety side will go up, and then the incidents and serious accidents and incidents. Production means, madam, in the aviation industry, the production is considered in various aspects, like every project which is every task which is conducted within this aviation industry is considered as a project, and it involves several procedures and serious procedures which are monitored and highly regulated. So the completion of these processes involves several employee categories, as well as the signatures, and all the responsibilities should be taken by the people who complete this process, and the overall project should be signed by these regulatory authorities, and then only the these overall let consider this aircraft that you bought into. The aircraft will be released into the service after all these procedures and projects have been completed. So if you focus more on these projects and invest more on these projects, then the safety will be impacted.
So perhaps you can think about applying the nature of the research after this, incorporating the factors from the industry. No?
Yes.
This is a good theoretical contribution. The staff, what is the population of this technical staff?
400, but altogether I returned with 375 questionnaires, and then
400 in the lower tier. You said only one particular level was
yeah,
taken.
400.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the insights.
How we can take research further on. Thank you, Monica. Now we are to the final paper for presentation. in the subject. And social identities. Representation is 20 minutes. It's like that. And 15 minutes, 1 minute.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all of you, the respective panel and my fellow researchers, and all of you. So let me present my case study research under the topic of Hela Holdings Sustained Business Growth through Transformational Leadership, Stakeholder Relationships, and Sustainable Product Solution. This is the content of my presentation. First, I'll discuss a brief about the background and the theme of the case study, literature review, case framework, data collection methodology, timeline, data analysis and findings, conclusion, and case study questions. So let me move on to the company background. So Hela is a $280 million company which focuses on social capital and customized apparel that provides customized apparel supply chain solutions. And Dilanka Jinadasa is the current CEO, and he has acquired Hela Holdings as Foundation Garments in 2015 when it was doing around $50 millions from his father. And at that time, it was operating only in Sri Lanka. And now it's been operating in 10 facilities across 4 countries in the globe. So Sri Lanka, Kenya, Ethiopia, and Egypt are the 4 countries. And it has one joint venture in Ethiopia for bra manufacturing named Sumri International. And they have one partnership in Tanzania, namely A to Z Mills. And when it comes to their design facilities, they have 4 design facilities in 4 countries in US, UK, France, and Sri Lanka. And they have a capacity of 8 million pieces per month. And they have 3 product categories conducting in intimates cluster, sportswear, and kidswear. So the theme of this case study is sustained business growth of Hela Holdings through transformational leadership, stakeholder relationship, and sustainable product solutions. And the case study objectives are to explain how Hela was competent to accomplish sustained business growth during 2015 to 2022, and to study transformational leadership role in the case study, and to explore whether sustained business growth is determined by transformational leadership, stakeholder management, and sustainable product solutions. And the scope is to evaluate those main key drivers in the unit of Hela Holdings. And when talking about the significance, on average, the global consumption of clothing and footwear is around 2,250 billion during past couple of years. And the demand, the resources says like it will exceed $2.5 trillion in 2025. So Asia is one of the dominant apparel suppliers in the world. And in 2020, Sri Lanka has exported nearly $4,000 million worth of apparels, and Kenya and Ethiopia 325 and 150. Altogether, it's around $4,500 millions. So out of that, Hela has exported 200 million USD worth of apparel during the same year, which contributes almost 5% of that. So it's worthwhile researching on Hela Holdings to give light to the same context and take it as a
example. So when talking about the literature, I have perused like 56 articles, including 12 A-star journals. And when talking about the outcome of sustained business growth, mainly the researchers have discussed the business growth through revenue and employment. And when talking about the key driver, the transformational leadership is the key driver for this. And according to Mohammed and Jawla 2021, it says the transformational leadership is discussed according to 4 categories, namely individual consideration, idealized influence, intellectual stimulation, and inspirational motivation. So individual consideration refers how a leader address the needs of their followers by attending their individual needs and concerns. And the idealized influence means how a leader act as a role model and share the vision, company vision and mission to their followers. And intellectual stimulation refers to encourage their followers to be creative and innovative. And finally, the inspirational motivation is promoting organizational vision to their followers. And the next driver is the stakeholder relationship. According to Limetol 2005, they have described more than 10 stakeholders, but out of those categories, I've taken only 4 that are most appealing to this company, namely the shareholders, customers, suppliers, and the employees. And the final driver is the sustainable product solutions. In that, I am discussing the material use and the energy use of the company. And this is my case framework where the sustained business growth is the main outcome, and how those 3 main drivers drive the outcome: this transformational leadership, stakeholder relationship, and delivering sustainable product solutions. And when talking about the methodology of my research, I have referred secondary sources as well as primary sources. When talking about the secondary sources, I've referred company documents, company financials, annual reports, videos, websites, presentation, internal documents, etc. And of course, more importantly, my primary sources are 11 in-depth interviews and 6 focus group discussions. In the in-depth interviews, I mainly focused on the positions that are in the top management from DGM, GM level upwards to the CEO. And in the focus group discussions, I focused on the departments like the sourcing and supply chain department, fabric technicians, merchants, designers and innovation team, planning team, and more importantly, the sample room operators. And this is the timeline of my research. In this plot, I have indicated the revenue from 2015-16 to 2021-22, how the revenue varies. And then I have plotted the special events that are shown in the company, targeting those main key drivers. So I'll be discussing those events in the next slide. So in this data analysis and findings, I'm focusing on the definition that I've found from the literature, how it has shown in Heller Holdings in a qualitative angle. So in sustained business growth, the first category is the revenue. So within the research time period, the revenue has grown from 50 million US dollars to 280 million US dollars, and which is a visible growth. And when it comes to employment, it has grown from 4,500 employers to 20,000 employers within the period. And when talking about the transformational leadership, when considering the individual consideration, so Heller provides childcare with meals and like they focus on the employees for customized trainings and training requirements, and also to showcase idealized influence. So for one example is like the CEO has invested on Egypt facility during the COVID-19 pandemic. And for intellectual stimulation, they have encouraged their employees to work on more innovative products, more innovative creative things to commercialize those things. So one is like they have their trademark for dry-free pantry, and they work on adaptive clothing, etc. And for inspirational motivation, they have inculcate the technology driven culture in the company, where they have digitized their ERP systems and most of their processes. And when talking about the stakeholder relationships, when it comes to shareholders, they have more than 16,000 shareholders, and to keep the connection, the relationship between the shareholders, they have the standard AGMs and earning calls, etc. And when it comes to the customer relationships, like they have more than 30 international brands as their customers, and there are many more brands in the pipeline. So to maintain those relationships, they have integrated sales managing in the respective countries, and also their quantity shipped during this period has increased from 20 million to 120 million. And when talking about the supplier collaboration, so they have collaborations with the vendors, the suppliers, vendor managed inventories, and with certain print manufacturers, in-house RFID printing kind of projects they have involved and already implemented. And when talking about the employees, they have from basic transportation, food provision things to, they have created the secondary income sources for their employees, like Hela Diriliya, and certain scholarship programs for the children for Hela, and certain training programs for them to for the employees to encourage. And when talking about their sustainable product solutions, the first when talk about the material use, actually, they have their ISO standard certifications, and like their products, they have a range of products that use recycle options, post-consumer waste, and PET bottles, etc. And of course, for energy use, they are providing 110% of the electricity need of 4 plants by solar power. And of course, there are charging points for to encourage electric vehicles, etc. And they are working towards UNSDG. And finally, the conclusion is transformational leadership has become the most prominent driver for sustained business growth of Hela. And talking about the stakeholder management, customer and employee relationships are more noticeable compared to investor and supplier relationships. And sustainability has become a major focus of the company for sustained business growth of Hela. And these are the case study research questions of my study. And thank you very much.
For your masters, yes, please. I know that it's a qualitative study, so case study research. Actually, very authentic, beautiful findings. I was impressed with the very authentic, beautiful findings, and related with the company.
However, I would have preferred anyway some of it, especially related to the methodology, the selection of the case study, why single case study, the data collection, and methodological rigor related information is required. So I would strongly advise you to incorporate it there. And also, I did not see an issue. Even in a case study research, we have to first identify the issue or the argument. So are you saying that we saw some examples of the argument. So this is ongoing. So I know you have taken an ideal case study where these aspects have been implemented, but there has to be a gap even in a qualitative study. So that gap you have to highlight, no?
Yes. So if I explain that,
Yes.
this 2015 to 2022 is a period where like many industries were
That you showed very well in your diagram, no? Yes.
interrupted by different
Yes.
supply chain challenges. So amidst all those challenges, how
Yes.
Hella has sustained their business was like exemplary to other competitors or other industries in the same context. So
Yes, we have to go and place it in the literature
Mm.
and maybe leadership related. And you were talking about certain aspects, no? So you have to go and contextualize that in the literature, and that gap has to be supported with some broader universal aspects as well. Then the case study selection can be done. While some companies couldn't do well, Heller did really well. So you want to explore why Heller was different from other organizations, and then you can show what theoretical perspective you took and the findings. So findings, I'm really impressed. And you did say you studied secondary data as well. So perhaps again, a summary of what you found from the interviews, how themes were generate. Of course, it's deductive. You knew about the theory and what you were looking in. Methodologically, these themes were deductive. And among them, what were the sub-themes that were emerging? So making it a really rigorous qualitative study. Might have been there in the report. You would have curtailed for the in favor
it was
of
in
time.
detail in the report, but for this
Yes.
presentation, actually, I was not included those
Okay. Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All the guidance research activities for a long, long time. Dr. Madhuka Udunuwara, who is a professor in the Department of Marketing, Faculty of Management and Finance of University of Colombo. Thank you very much, madam, for your participation, your time here, and for the very valuable comments you have given to our students, which will definitely benefit them in their research careers henceforth. Thank you very much, ma'am. Director is here. Token of appreciation. All right.
take a look. How many?